Exposed, how a waitress's hidden skill transformed the life of a billionaire. After 5 men attacked, Emily wiped down the same booth for the 4th time that night, her reflection barely recognizable in the polished surface. The diner hummed with life, but beneath the fluorescent glare, her heart raced. Bills piled up like dirty dishes at home, and every shift felt like treading water in an ocean of obligations. Supporting her ailing mother meant sacrificing her dreams of nursing, and each plate she served was a reminder of the battle she faced alone. How could she ever escape this life churned by endless routines and financial recklessness? Then, as the midnight crowd thinned, shadows loomed outside, threatening to darken what little hope Emily clung to. 5 local troublemakers burst through the door, their laughter like knives, cutting into her fragile peace. Chills slithered down her spine as she locked eyes with them, a coiling unease spinning in her gut. She had seen what they could do, heard the stories etched deep into the town's whispers. That darkness wasn't just reserved for other people, it could consume her too. Before she could question her better judgment, a rational part nagged at her, urging her to recognize her own abilities. Her grandfather had once told her stories of breaking free from intimidation, of a hidden strength bubbling just beneath the surface. Even now, amid rising fear, she felt it stir. But would she really dare to unleash it? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Emily forced herself to meet their mocking grins with a feigned nonchalance masking the tempest within. Each laugh felt like a strike to her chest, steering her toward a threshold she never wished to cross. How had she gotten to this point, swinging between desperation and a muted resolve to change her life? She felt split between the past and the future, trapped in a cycle of loyalty to a mother she adored and a hunger for freedom she dared not acknowledge. As they approached, her breath quickened, muscles tense like a coiled spring. Panic surged as the lead troublemaker stepped into the light, words slurring with swagger, but Emily found herself anchoring deeper in her resolve. Faces blurred, her heart drumming an uneven rhythm of anger and fear, and as their threats sliced through her defenses, she chose to fight. With a surprising burst of courage, she launched forward, tapping into the self-defense techniques her grandfather had tenaciously imparted. In that tension-filled moment, a figure watched from the shadows, captivated by her forceful defiance, a reclusive billionaire named Max, visiting the town to escape his own demons. He was no stranger to isolation, filled with echoing doubt after a bitter betrayal. But here, in the restaurant's neon glow, Emily shone with unfiltered resilience, igniting a part of him long thought snuffed out. Behind her, the chaos erupted, a flurry of bodies and emotions colliding, escalating to a breaking point that sent shockwaves through the diner. Emily faced not just the confrontation at hand but the weight of a life she wasn't sure she wanted anymore. And as she stood shoulder to shoulder with Max, eyes locked in a shared moment of defiance, she realized the stakes were far greater than any high school bullying incident. The dust settled, leaving her trembling and raw, questioning everything: her identity, her choices, her future. Would she continue fighting against everything that sought to keep her down? In the soft echo of the diner, she felt raw and exposed, looking at Max, her search for reassurance painting desperation on her face. Would their newfound connection weather the storm brewing on the horizon, or would it crash like the tidal wave of responsibilities pulling her back into darkness? The question lingered, hanging heavy in the air, as the night pressed in around them, and once again, Emily found herself standing at a crossroads between fear and the kindling of transformation, a flicker of hope trembling inside her, waiting to ignite. Inside the diner, silence had replaced the raucous laughter that had filled the space moments ago. Emily, still quivering from adrenaline, locked eyes with Max, and in that instant, she saw something change within him, a dawning realization that echoed her own. They were both teetering on the brink of transformation, each intrinsically aware that this juncture could not just reshape their worlds but redefine who they were. Max took a step closer, breaking the tension that had bound them. You didn't back down. I saw you, he said, his voice low and steady, thunderous against the backdrop of broken plates and shattered glass. The clamor had settled into an eerie quiet, but Emily's heart raced as his words washed over her. Praise was unfamiliar territory, yet it ignited a flicker of pride inside her, a stark contrast to the shame and fear that usually clouded her moods. I didn't have a choice, she replied, her voice shaky but resolute. The mob of emotions swirled as she grappled with her implicit strength emerging from vulnerability. Her eyes darted toward the broken door, the remnants of confrontation still fresh in her mind. It wasn't just about them, Max continued, his gaze piercing her defenses. You were fighting for something. What was it? Emily caught her breath, the gravity of his question pressing down on her. She was fighting for survival, sure, but deep down, it felt bigger than that. It was the reckless abandon of dreams long buried, the yearning to breathe without the weight of financial despair holding her under. For my life, she said, the simplicity of the statement resonating between them. For everything I want to do but can't, Max nodded, as if tracing the contours of her struggle, perhaps seeing echoes of his own battles in her words. I get that, he murmured. Finding out who you are beneath all that pressure is just almost impossible, she interjected, inhaling sharply as reality struck. The battle wasn't just against those 5 men or the financial strain, it was against herself and the self-doubt that had been nurtured over years of sacrifice. She could almost hear her grandfather's voice urging her to recognize her worth, to stand tall in the face of adversity. But the gauntlet had only just begun. Maybe, Max paused thoughtfully, we should explore that together. The challenge was intoxicating. Emily's heart pounded with a mix of apprehension and excitement. Could she trust him? Would their paths truly align? What do you mean? She pressed, her mind racing with possibilities. I mean, you've shown an undeniable strength tonight. That is something I admire. Come work with me. The shift in his tone evoked a confidence Emily had never been extended before, and for the first time, the notion of breaking out from her cocoon flickered enticingly in her mind. Work with you? Doing what? Her instinct warned her that it was too easy, too sudden. Yet, beneath that instinct, another part of her thrived on hope and dread. I need someone who can see beyond the surface. I've isolated myself for too long, and he gestured toward the mess, you see reality. You could be the spark that reignites my vision for my company. The audacity of his proposition staggered her, the notion that she could contribute to something beyond herself was daunting. Could she navigate a business world after years serving diners, or would she stumble and fall back into the shadows? Why me? Emily asked, searching his expression for any hint of condescension. Instead, she saw sincerity etched deep in his gaze. Because you didn't back down. Most people wouldn't have done what you did tonight, and I need that kind of person by my side. Someone who fights. The weight of his expectations hung between them, causing her heart to flutter with uncertainty and yearning. She could either retreat into her comfort zone or step forward into the unknown, risking everything for a chance at real change. As she contemplated the offer, the thrum of possibility surged within her, unraveling the tapestry of reluctance she had been cloaked in. This wasn't just about enduring, it was about forging a path. All right, Emily said, her decision crystallizing between them like a new dawn breaking over dark waters. I'll do it. Max's lips curled into a genuine smile, and for the first time, Emily felt like she was stepping into a brighter light rather than remaining mired in doubt. But as empowerment skimmed the edges of her consciousness, a seed of uncertainty rooted deep. Would she possess the strength to breathe life into this new opportunity, or would she falter under the weight of ambition? The moment hung tenderly, poised to shift her trajectory forever, as she pondered the next challenge ahead. The potential for growth loomed large, but as they exchanged a determined glance, the fear of failure ignited a storm within her, one she knew she would need to confront sooner rather than later. In the next chapter of her life, the time had come to face not only her fears but also the hidden shadows lurking within her ambitions. What would she discover next? Emily stepped out of the diner, the frigid night air wrapping around her like a gauzy shroud. The remnants of chaos echoed in her mind, drowning out the serenity of the star-speckled sky. The adrenaline that had fueled her moments earlier now seemed a distant whisper, giving way to the anxiety that surged through her veins. This was not just a night of danger, it marked the beginning of a radically altered reality, one that demanded her to confront a fear she had buried for far too long. Max's words reverberated in her thoughts as she walked toward her car. "I need someone who fights." The notion settled into her consciousness, but the weight it carried felt heavy. What did it mean to confront her battles? Hadn't she spent years running from them? As she slid into the driver's seat, she caught a reflection of herself in the rearview mirror. The face looking back was weary but flickering with cautious potential. Who was she to assume she could succeed in a business setting? Her experience was rooted in filling orders and serving customers. What had she done to deserve such an opportunity? Her internal monologue spun with perceived inadequacies. For every moment she reveled in the joy of service, there were twice as many shadows of doubt whispering she would never be more than a waitress. But the urge to dispel that narrative swelled inside her, challenging her to redefine her identity. She focusing her breath, steering her thoughts toward the potential. What skills had she honed without realizing it? Multitasking under pressure, engaging with people from all walks of life, solving problems on the fly. Hadn't those attributes given her an edge even in the din of clattering dishes? It was this clarity that ignited a flicker of determination within her. Maybe the foundation of her potential wasn't so fragile after all. Max believed in her abilities, perhaps it was time she learned to believe in herself too. Arriving home, she took a deep breath and stepped inside. The familiar surroundings felt both comforting and constricting, an environment that begged her to stay within the lines she had meticulously drawn. But she had just declared her intention to step outside of those lines. The choice to work with Max was more than just an invitation to a job, it was an invitation to grow, to challenge the norms she had lived by for so long. The next morning, she awoke with the sky aglow, an undercurrent of excitement swirling through her. It was strange, even the mundane seemed infused with vibrance. She knew she needed to prepare herself for this shift, so she dove headfirst into research about Max's company. With each piece of information, she felt stronger, more informed, and more capable than she had in years. Translating ideas into action sent adrenaline coursing through her, reigniting the bravery she had discovered. She started crafting a list of her perceived strengths and weaknesses, an exercise that forced her to confront the reality of her potential. As she penned her thoughts, a realization struck her: she had innate abilities that transcended her past experiences. Suddenly, she recognized a hidden talent that sparked even more interest: the understanding of customer satisfaction. Years spent as a waitress had taught her how to identify needs before they were vocalized, how to anticipate a request or a mood. This could be invaluable in the business arena. With renewed focus, she decided to prepare a strategy. Emily began envisioning herself not just as an asset to Max but as someone who could introduce innovative ideas grounded in practical experience. She rehearsed how she would convey her insights, imagining the boardroom filled with faces, some skeptical, others curious. The climb was steep, but she was forging a foothold. Arriving at work that first day, she felt the familiar buzz of anxiety coupled with exhilaration. As she crossed the threshold of the office, a world of possibility lay ahead. Max awaited her with an eager smile, an expression that somehow steeled her resolve, but lurking beneath that excitement was the gnawing question: if she stumbled, would she return to the shadows she was fighting so hard to escape, or could she finally retain the courage to rise again? And as she steadily approached the desk stacked with papers, she braced herself for the moment she would inevitably have to confront her own insecurities head-on. What awaited her wouldn't just be the tasks of the day, but the confrontation of everything she had long avoided: the truth of her capabilities, the expansive potential within herself, and the demons of doubt that lurked just beyond the curtain of her newfound ambition. How would she face the first meeting, and more importantly, what would it reveal about the strength she was still learning to harness? As Emily settled into her chair at the office, she forced herself to breathe deeply. The papers scattered in front of her felt like a chaotic blend of expectations and realities, each representing a challenge she was both eager and fearful to tackle. She glanced around the room, observing her colleagues who were already engrossed in their tasks. Their focus reminded her of the diners at the cafe, every one of them a world unique and complex. And yet she noticed an additional layer here, one of collaboration and ambition, something she had barely glimpsed in her former life. Max entered the room, exuding confidence. Ready to get started? His eyes sparkled with excitement. Emily felt an unexpected adrenaline surge. She was ready. The first meeting came quickly. As they gathered in the conference room, a spacious domain filled with sleek furniture and large windows that illuminated the space, anxiety clawed at her insides. Tension hung in the air as she watched her colleagues exchange easy banter, their camaraderie a silent reminder of her inexperience. But beneath this discomfort, a flicker of resolve ignited. She was there for a reason. Max initiated the discussion, presenting a complex issue their team was facing. Emily listened intently, absorbing the dialogue, but soon found the urge to contribute bubbling to the surface. She had learned long ago how to navigate conflict in the diner, diffusing tensions with charm and empathy. Those very skills were necessary here, perhaps even powerful. As the conversation grew more heated, ideas ricocheted around the room. Her heartbeat quickened as she raised her hand, the gesture feeling foreign yet necessary. "What if we approach our customers differently?" she suggested, drawing from her experience. "Instead of focusing solely on the product, let us frame our offerings around their needs and emotions. People remember how we make them feel more than what we tell them." The room fell silent. All eyes were on her. Questions swirled in her mind. Had she overstepped? Would they dismiss her thoughts due to her background? But as Max smiled and nodded, she felt a surge of validation. His voice reverberated through the silence, "That is a refreshing perspective, Emily." Encouraged, she elaborated, recalling techniques she had used in the diner to anticipate customer desires. The conversation shifted, and suddenly, she became an integral part of the brainstorming process, her ideas morphing into a collective vision. As the meeting progressed, she felt lighter than she had in years, a sensation that coursed through her veins like clarity. Later, as she returned to her desk, a wave of disbelief crashed over her. Had she really contributed meaningfully? Her fears of inadequacy simmered but dulled under the warmth of newfound confidence. This moment, she recognized, was one of her first steps towards stepping into this unfamiliar network of ambition and possibility. But amidst this budding confidence, shadows flitted at the edges of her mind. What would tomorrow hold? Would she be able to replicate this success consistently, or would the weight of expectation become too great? She turned those thoughts over like stones, each representing a fear threatening to restrain her growth. As night closed in, Emily's thoughts danced between excitement for the future and the fear of her past creeping back. Those inner demons she had almost silenced threatened to re-emerge, and she could feel the pulse of uncertainty thrumming beneath her skin. The stakes felt higher now. This was not merely a job. It was a metamorphosis, a chance to transform her life, yet there was an unsettling whisper that suggested she risked it all. Far beyond the comfort of her previous reality, she needed to push further. What other hidden skills might she uncover? What additional risks could she take to ensure this transformation didn't just flicker briefly before extinguishing? As she leaned back in her chair, staring at the ceiling, she found her resolve bolstering against the tide of doubt. This journey was only beginning, and soon she would have to confront even bigger challenges. Would she stand strong against those who might scrutinize her, or would she falter? Tomorrow's meeting with a particularly seasoned client could either catapult her into a spotlight or plunge her into an abyss of fear. The stakes had never felt so high. Could she continue to rise? Emily woke early the next morning, the sun streaming through her window but failing to banish the doubts lingering in her mind. A restless night had left her half asleep, questioning whether the confidence she had felt during yesterday's meeting was merely a fleeting illusion. The schedule ahead echoed ominously as she mentally prepared for the encounter with the seasoned client. Would her ideas hold weight in the face of someone with years of experience? Stepping into the office, Emily was met with the usual hum of conversation, but today it was different. Today, every word felt amplified, every laugh underscoring a divide she struggled to bridge. She forced herself to acknowledge their energy rather than retreat into her shell. Her heart raced as she approached her desk. How could she leverage yesterday's victory in a room filled with seasoned professionals? Max caught her eye before she had a chance to spiral into her nervous thoughts. "Hey, don't forget you have a meeting with Thompson this afternoon. Remember, he is known for being difficult." His tone carried concern but also an unspoken challenge to embrace the moment. She nodded, trying to mirror his confidence. Max's faith in her ignited something internally. She was not just a waitress who had stumbled into this world. She had ideas, perspectives that had once garnered respect. During the morning meeting, designs swirled around a conference table as the team discussed strategies. It was familiar ground, but the high stakes of the pending client meeting lingered. Each voice contributed fragments of innovation while Emily dissected their ideas, wrestling with her own contributions. Suddenly, she noticed a group of colleagues whispering. The air changed, growing thick with speculation and judgment. Were they talking about her? The weight of their gazes pressed down heavily, reviving the familiar insecurities she thought she delayed to rest. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to tune out the distractions and lock into the discussion. Max's voice cut through her fog. "Emily, what do you think about integrating customer feedback more robustly into our proposal?" The question was direct, eyes turning to her once again. The pressure was palpable. This was her moment. With a burst of determination, she pushed back the doubts. "I believe we should create a real-time feedback mechanism, ideally through social media interactions. Let us focus not just on product sales but on the relationships we build." The words tumbled out with surprising ease, conviction igniting the spark of her earlier success. As the meeting wrapped up, an unexpected confidence surged through her. Yes, her ideas may face scrutiny, but they also had the potential to resonate deeply with their client. Every glance exchanged around the table felt like a small victory against her self-doubt. The clock ticked ominously toward the meeting with Thompson. As lunchtime approached, she chose to step away from the noise of the office and take a stroll around the block. The movement cleared her mind, allowing space to confront the magnitude of what lay ahead. In those quiet moments, she acknowledged the weight of uncertainty. This client was not just an opportunity, they represented the very change she sought in her life. Would they see her potential or dismiss her as just another rookie? The stakes were high, and somehow, she needed to find the courage to push through. Returning to the office with a steadied breath, she caught sight of Max, who was wrapping up a call. "You've got this, Emily. Just remember, you're not fighting for approval. You're fighting for your vision." His reassurance was both encouraging and a call to action. As the meeting room door loomed ahead, she felt the surge of conflicting emotions. Hope clashed with apprehension, anticipation wove through uncertainty. Could she navigate this integral moment with grace? Her hand rested lightly on the doorknob, right at the threshold. Every fiber of her being urged her to push past the fear, to trust the skills she'd honed over years of adversity. The answer was within reach, but would she seize it? As she swung the door open, a flood of voices greeted her, underscoring how her journey was reaching a critical juncture. She was not merely stepping into a room, she was stepping into the unfolding chapters of her life, where each challenge would either shape her into the leader she aspired to be or leave her retreating into obscurity. The moment had come. There was no turning back, only the potential for discovery, growth, or failure. What awaited her inside could redefine everything. But what would it demand from her in return? The room was alive with a buzz that smothered Emily as she entered, but her heart drummed a steady rhythm against her chest, a blend of fear and excitement coursing through her. Sitting across from her at the sleek, modern table, Thompson and his team appeared both imposing and scrutinizing, their expressions ranging from mild curiosity to thinly veiled skepticism. "Thank you for joining us, Emily," Thompson began, his voice low yet firm, a contrast to the vibrant ambience of the room. The way he pronounced her name left no room for interpretation. He was testing her, as if you were waiting to see if she would bend or break under pressure. "Let us dive into your proposal," he added, gesturing with a hand that commanded attention. The weight of his gaze felt ominous, and for a split second, she wavered, almost retreating inside herself. But she wouldn't allow it. Not now. She swallowed hard, locked eyes with him, and spoke. "Thank you for the opportunity. I believe our unique approach to integrating real-time customer feedback could transform the client's engagement experience." The words felt solid, powerful even, rolling off her tongue with a self-assuredness she scarcely felt. The tension shifted as she elaborated on her proposal, detailing how they could harness social media data to better understand and optimize customer interactions. With every point she made, she drew on more than just her newfound knowledge. She recalled her days spent learning the intricacies of customer service, how to read a room, and respond to needs before they became demands. These were skills she had honed in years of working as a waitress, often underestimated yet crucial to the essence of human connection. Thompson raised an eyebrow, his interest piqued. "You're suggesting we base our direction on data we gather from casual interactions?" "Yes," Emily nodded, emboldened. In a world inundated with information, personalizing the customer experience based on their actual feedback can evoke loyalty. It shifts our focus from product-centric to customer-centric. As she spoke, she noticed the way the executives leaned in, the mix of intrigue and skepticism replaced by something resembling respect. It ignited a spark within her, and with it, a deep sense of belonging to a realm she had once considered out of reach. But then, a sharp voice cut through her momentum. "That's all well and good, but do you really think customers would respond positively to being analyzed in real time?" One of the senior executives challenged, a smirk on his face as if he relished in poking at her confidence. "Absolutely," Emily replied, her heart racing as she gathered her thoughts with quick precision. "Anticipating needs doesn't undermine privacy, it enhances satisfaction. It's about connection. Think about the familiarity customers feel with brands that personalize their experiences based on what is actually said, not what is assumed." In that moment, it felt as if she were riding a wave, harnessing the tide of doubt that had washed over her since last night, and transforming it into determination. "Impressive points, Emily," Thompson said, a hint of a smile creeping onto his lips, though she noted the still critical gaze of his colleague. "But how would you initiate such a system on a practical scale?" The question hung heavily in the air, but instead of crumbling, she thrived. Her mind raced forward. "We could start with pilot programs on selected social media channels, gathering data from targeted demographics. From there, we can analyze responses to streamline the interaction process before a full rollout." She could feel the change in energy, like a palpable shift as they discussed the implications of her idea. Her focus sharpened. She wasn't just speaking to win approval, she was charting a course forward. As the meeting began to wind down, something shifted inside her. No longer the girl worrying, wondering if she belonged, Emily felt she was claiming her space, her authority. The essence of her experiences merged into her professional resolve. "Thank you for your insights today, Emily," Thompson concluded the meeting, his tone reflecting genuine consideration. "We'll be in touch." As she stepped out of the room, a rush of adrenaline surged through her veins, mingling with disbelief. She had not just survived, she had fought for her vision and shown glimpses of what she could contribute. But as the high faded, a gnawing question bubbled up. Was this fledgling confidence truly sustainable? Could she withstand the inevitable backlash from colleagues who might see her newfound assertiveness as a threat? Returning to her desk, the echoes of their discussion replayed in her mind, the potential ramifications of her proposal fueling a quiet fear. She felt the ground shifting beneath her, marking the start of something pivotal. Perhaps it was the beginning of a journey, one that could either elevate her career or leave her vulnerable to the judgments she had always run from. With the afternoon slipping into evening, Emily sat in silence, contemplating her next move. How would she build on this momentum? And more importantly, could the very skills that had once pinned her down now serve as the backbone of her ascent? The answers would unravel only as she dared to confront the risks of her new path. But just beyond the horizon, a new challenge loomed, one that threatened to test her resolve in ways she never anticipated. The hum of the office felt unsettlingly quiet as Emily sat at her desk, the aftermath of the meeting drifting through her thoughts. The thrill of victory was quickly overwhelmed by uncertainty. She pulled up the proposal on her screen again, revising the key elements in her mind, assessing each detail with a critical eye. The initial adrenaline rush had given way to a cold sweat of doubt. Was the concept truly viable, or had she merely dazzled them with enthusiasm? Determined not to back down, she pressed on, organizing her notes and gathering data to support her proposal. As she worked, an unexpected realization struck her: this wasn't just about the presentation anymore. It was about shifting her identity from an underestimated waitress to a strategic thinker capable of influencing decisions at a corporate level. The gravity of that transition paled only in comparison to the risks it entailed. She glanced around, catching snippets of conversations murmured in hushed tones among her colleagues. Uncertainty clouded their faces, perhaps reflecting their own hesitations about her bold suggestion. The thought stung. Were they genuinely concerned about the idea, or were they fearful of the change it heralded? Either way, Emily found that the scrutiny now felt heavier, as if it had solidified into a tangible force pressing down on her. The following day, emails flooded in with feedback from the executives, many centered on clarifications about her proposal. Each response ignited her resolve. She meticulously crafted responses to address their concerns, ensuring that her voice wouldn't be drowned out in the ensuing discussions. As she typed, she reflected on her past. The hustle and bustle of her waiting tables echoed back at her, a reminder of her learned abilities to read a room and discern underlying tensions, skills that could now be leveraged in a boardroom filled with seasoned executives. After several hours spent refining her responses, Emily felt a flicker of pride. It was more than merely proving she could hang with her peers, it was a chance to highlight the value her unique background brought to the table. Yet, with that pride came apprehension about how her colleagues viewed her now. Would they see her as a budding authority or a threat to their familiarity? Later that week, she was called into a follow-up meeting with Thompson. The imposing team once again filled the room, their expressions unreadable, and Emily's heart raced. Yet, as she sat across from them, the quiet determination she had cultivated came flooding back. Thompson launched into a series of questions, challenging Emily to delve deeper into her proposal's logistics. Each query was an opportunity and she seized them, navigating them with precision and poise, her voice steady and confident. Midway through, the same executive who had previously challenged her crossed his arms and leaned forward, exuding skepticism. Your plan would need a buy-in from departments that often resist change. What makes you think they'll warm up to this approach? The tension in the room surged, and Emily's pulse quickened. Yet instead of succumbing to fear, she saw it as a chance to spotlight her past experiences. I can appreciate reluctance to change, she began, her voice firm. In my previous role, I often had to negotiate between management and customers, ensuring both sides felt heard while transitioning to new systems. Building relationships and fostering understanding is key. It wasn't just words, she felt the truths of her experience woven seamlessly into her argument. With every answer, Emily felt her credibility growing, yet that same gnawing fear returned. Just how far could she push this newfound authority before it crashed against the tide of corporate tradition? As the discussion continued, Thompson's demeanor shifted towards thoughtful consideration. The room's air crackled with a hint of possibility, but Emily sensed the undercurrents of caution mingling with intrigue. This was not solely about gathering support, it was about standing firm in her convictions while remaining mindful of the obstacles ahead. By the meeting's end, Emily's heart swelled with cautious optimism. Yet, as she left the room, familiar doubt gnawed at her resolve. Would her breakthrough moments be overshadowed by setbacks on her journey? As the week progressed, shadows of hesitation from coworkers morphed into outright whispers, bringing her to a crossroads. It was clear now that her transformation would not just be internal. The resistance was palpable, and as she prepared for a presentation before the entire department to share her proposal, questions swirled in her mind. Would the same strength she discovered in herself be enough to weather this storm? With only days to prepare, Emily found herself at a pivotal junction, she could either retreat into the comfort of her previous self or dive deeper into the identity she was beginning to forge. The allure of the latter was powerful. However, a stark realization settled in. True strength also meant facing the possibility of failure. The moment of truth beckoned. Would she be prepared to fight for her vision, or could hesitation snatch it away just as easily? The answer loomed closer with each tick of the clock, waiting to expose her resolve in a way she had never anticipated. As the day of the presentation approached, Emily's thoughts spiraled in a whirlwind of anxiety and anticipation. Each tick of the clock signaled not just the passage of time but the increasing weight of expectation. She had immersed herself in every possible detail of her proposal, but the fear of standing before her colleagues and superiors left the sharpest sting. They would be looking at her not just as a peer but as a symbol of change, a concept fraught with potential rejection. She reached for her coffee cup, the warmth of the ceramic offering her a sliver of comfort amidst the chill of uncertainty. As she stared into the steam curling upward, a revelation sparked within her. She had endured far greater challenges in her past, surmounting personal barriers that had once felt insurmountable. From navigating the complexities of serving various personalities as a waitress to mastering the art of negotiation between conflicting demands, she had developed resilience that transcended roles. In the quiet of the break room, she whispered to herself, "You belong here. You have something to offer." It was a mantra she needed, layering her fraying confidence with determination. The thought of her transformation began to crystallize. It wasn't merely about presenting a proposal but about affirming her place within this corporate landscape. The night before the presentation, Emily sat on her bed, the glow of her laptop illuminating the darkened room. Though fatigue threatened to pull her under, she remained vigilant, rehearsing her delivery. She imagined the expressions of her colleagues' curiosity, skepticism, and perhaps admiration. Each scenario reignited her purpose, an energy she clung to like a lifeline. It wasn't just data on slides, it was her story, interwoven with every lesson learned in the trenches of service. Her mornings of rising before dawn to prepare for shifts echoed in her mind. The dynamics of managing a full restaurant while anticipating the needs of patrons had honed her instincts in a way that felt almost supernatural. Suddenly, she realized, this was her advantage. She had developed the ability to recognize discomfort, to bring forth understanding through dialogue, a skill often overlooked in boardroom dynamics. Once in the office, fear threatened the carefully constructed focus she had forged. As employees trickled in, Emily detected the whispers, shifts in energy that rattled her nerves. Colleagues exchanged wary glances, some tracing back to their own assumptions about her rapid ascent. Would they resent what they saw as an encroachment on their territory? A quick entrenchment of fear reminded her of a battlefield, where vulnerability held hands with the potential for defeat. But there was also a sliver of hope. Lynn, an established colleague known for her strategic insight, approached her just before the meeting. "I just wanted to wish you luck. You've put in the work, Emily. Don't underestimate that." With a mix of gratitude and disbelief, Emily nodded, allowing the compliment to seep into her psyche. It was encouragement amidst an environment rife with doubt. Walking into the conference room, she felt a palpable shift in her energy. The heavy wooden table loomed, but within its daunting presence lay an arena for her to showcase her vision. She opened her presentation with a steady voice, heart racing yet empowered. The initial unease began to dissipate as she evoked her past experiences, sharing anecdotes that illustrated her journey. With every word, she forged connections, knitting her narrative tightly with the proposal's objectives. The room seemed to hold its breath, attention caught in a web of her authenticity. However, the tension was ready to ignite once more. A voice broke through the reverie. "Emily, while your insights are compelling, how can you guarantee that these changes won't disrupt our existing workflow?" The familiar skepticism returned, but now it felt less like an attack and more like an opportunity for dialogue. Emily met the gaze of the questioner, enthusiasm anchoring her response. "Change often comes with discomfort, but it also brings innovation. Just as I had to adapt to different customer preferences in the restaurant, we can pivot our approaches to adapt and improve. Understanding and communication will be the keys to facilitating this transition." A shift in her colleagues' reactions rippled through the room. Curiosity replaced skepticism, eyebrows raised in contemplation rather than dismissal. This was the moment where she could either retreat or push onward with confidence. With a measured intake of breath, Emily steadied herself for the next wave of questions, her heart racing but her mind clear. Uncertainty lingered like an echo, but now it was accompanied by a thrill of resolve. The path ahead would not be easy. With challenges looming and voices of doubt still present, Emily confronted her fears, both external and internal, head-on. In that moment, a new realization dawned: true courage wasn't about the absence of fear, but the willingness to forge ahead despite it. Each answer invigorated her. She was not simply defending her proposal but asserting her right to be seen and heard. As the meeting drew to a close, the atmosphere was brimming with potential, leaving Emily with one burning question: would they rally around her vision, or would she need to forge an even tougher path to command their respect? The answer loomed just out of reach, challenging her to rise beyond what she thought possible. The meeting came to an end amidst a mixture of muted applause and lingering ambivalence. As Emily gathered her materials, she could feel the weight of their expectations upon her. It felt simultaneously exhilarating and daunting. The glimmers of interest in her colleagues' eyes gave her hope, yet doubts crept back like shadows at dusk. What if this moment was fleeting, and the initial intrigue faded away, replaced instead by resentment for her perceived audacity? Walking out of the conference room, Emily took a deep breath, seeking to ground herself. For every step she took, she reminded herself that what truly mattered was how she carried this momentum forward. Lynn caught up with her in the hallway. "You did well." "Really," she said, her tone sincere. Emily saw something in Lynn she had missed before: an ally in this unforgiving landscape. The reassurance swelled within her, but Lena's furrowed brow was harder to decipher. "Thank you. I just hope it's enough," Emily replied, her voice barely above a whisper. She realized she had placed her worth on the approval of others rather than recognizing the strength she had already displayed. Lynn tilted her head, a knowing glint in her eye. "Change is uncomfortable, remember? You didn't step onto that platform for them. You did it for yourself." The thought resonated, striking a chord deep within. Emily had been so focused on external validation that she had momentarily forgotten the transformation she represented. This was her growth, not merely a proposal. She was embodying the drive of someone who had climbed from the trenches to a seat at the table. That evening, as she returned home, Emily reflected on the day and the subtle shifts she had begun to recognize within her environment. There was something invigorating about facing opposition, even in the slightest form. The adrenaline ignited by skepticism could transform into a fuel if she harnessed it correctly. She began drafting an email to the team, expressing her appreciation for their engagement. The act felt cathartic, allowing her to clarify her purpose further. She sought to keep the dialogue open, touching on the questions raised during the meeting and offering follow-up invitations to discuss their concerns. As she typed, she sensed her fingers moving with urgency. It was as though every keystroke was establishing a bridge between uncertainties and solutions. The previous fear began to dissipate, replaced by a satisfaction that she was not a passive participant in her own story. She was constructing it, piece by piece. Days passed, each filled with reciprocal exchanges as colleagues responded to her email. Slowly, the lines of communication widened. She embraced each interaction as an opportunity to learn, adapt, and reinforce her standing. A meeting was arranged with the skeptics, where she would have to confront their concerns directly, a chance to illuminate her vision further and demonstrate its feasibility. An anxious thrill gripped her as she prepared for this upcoming discussion. Emily knew she had to persuade not just with words but with new strategic insights and collaborative resolutions. Here lay a hidden test. Her instincts from the restaurant days whispered to her once more people were more amenable in an environment where they felt heard. The night before the meeting, Emily sat with her notes spread across the table, strategies mapping out how to engage her colleagues with empathy while firmly holding the line on her vision. It felt daunting, yet the pressure summoned her resilience, reminding her of past shifts she had navigated. In those moments, she allowed herself to imagine the possible outcomes, whether favorable or challenging, all while knowing their reactions would reflect more about their readiness for change than her capability. As she closed her eyes, visions of the powerful impact her proposal could have filled her mind. The profound sense of responsibility didn't intimidate her but ignited a fierce determination. It was all coming to a head, as the next meeting would demand every shred of her strength, but an unsettling question lingered in the back of her mind: if she succeeded, would they allow her newfound leadership to flourish, or would they still view her as a temporary solution? Would they acknowledge her worth or simply fashion her into their expectations? The answers awaited her, cloaked in impending confrontation. Tomorrow's discussion could either reinforce her place within this arena or strip her of the authority she fought so earnestly to establish. The stakes were higher than ever, and she grasped the impending moment with both trepidation and determination. The sun rose over the city, casting a golden hue on the buildings, illuminating Emily's reflections as she approached her office with a steely resolve. Today was different, a chance to articulate her vision for the company, a chance to solidify her place within this corporate landscape. As she stepped into the conference room, the air was palpable with tension. All eyes turned to her, not with skepticism this time, but with a hint of expectation. She was no longer just the waitress who had stumbled into the boardroom, she was a compass, navigating her colleagues towards a visionary future. With her notes at the ready, she began. What we're presenting today isn't merely a proposal, it's a transformative strategy that redefines our relationship with our clients. The words spilled forth, laced with the passion and experiences she had woven throughout her journey. Each bullet point she shared echoed her understanding and respect for the nuances of human interaction, honed through years on the front lines of service. The dialogue flowed, and as she faced challenges, Emily discovered strength within herself that she never knew existed. Disruption, she emphasized, is not our enemy, but our ally. Each question you have is an opportunity for deeper understanding and collaboration. With each response, she reflected upon her time in the diner, recalling countless negotiations between demanding customers and overworked staff. This was the same dynamic, only now it was corporate. As the session progressed, Emily caught glimpses of changing expressions. Skepticism slowly morphed into intrigue. Thompson leaned forward, genuinely engaged for the first time. You're suggesting a customer-first model, grounded in real-time data and genuine relationships. This is ambitious. But how do you scale this across the board? She was ready. Piloting the initiative in select markets will allow us to refine our approach. Feedback loops will enable continuous improvement, ensuring each interaction aligns with our brand's promise. The room was awash with nods, and for the first time, Emily felt a sync with her colleagues that made her drive palpable. When the meeting concluded, a wave of relief washed over her. They were not just receptive, they were rallying around a shared vision. And in their eyes, she found respect rather than the scrutiny she had feared. As she exited, Thompson caught her attention. Excellent presentation, Emily. This could shift the paradigm for us. Let us discuss how you can lead this initiative. In that moment, she recognized a profound shift not just in her colleagues' perceptions but within herself. From trepidation to recognition, she had traversed a landscape of doubt, emerging as a leader ready to tackle the complexities of the business world. As Emily wrapped up her day, she could still feel the adrenaline pulsing through her. She had conquered the fears that held her back. For the first time, she fully acknowledged that every challenge was simply an invitation to grow. That evening, she reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point. She was no longer solely defined by her past as a waitress, nor was she shrouded in the portraits of doubt that had once enveloped her. She was an emerging leader paving her own way, a bridge between personal experience and corporate strategy. The realization settled comfortably. Her dreams of becoming more than just an employee were within reach, and the once elusive vision of forging her own path was now tangibly real. Emily stepped out onto the balcony, the city pulsating below her. The light of the sunset was mesmerizing, and she felt that she was straddling the line between the old, immersed in uncertainty, and the new, lit with possibility. She had conquered fear, demonstrated resilience, and gained recognition. What was once a distant goal now stood before her, the horizon widening with every step she took. This was not simply a career shift, it was the reclaiming of her narrative, a testament to her strength and resilience. The path forward was bright, defined not just by her aspirations but fueled by her hard-won experiences. In her heart, she knew that overcoming the shadows of her past had forged an unbreakable spirit, establishing her space in a world where she had once felt invisible. So, what now? With unwavering determination, she was ready to dive into the depths of her possibilities, share her narrative, and encourage others to reclaim their journeys. She had made a promise to herself she would never again let fear silence her voice. Emily's journey was just beginning, and with it, a call to action for anyone watching. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that will inspire your own transformations. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about Emily's journey. We want to hear your thoughts. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion, because true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel. Don't wait even one more second to share.